mask. The more you grow, the more you learn, the more you grow. And I just want you to know, we're fabulous and nothing typical. Nothing typical.
All right, welcome to Nothing Typical. Today we're going to be talking about neurospicy love.
That was
Actually,
sensual.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is not something I do naturally. It's awkward. But we are going to talk about neurodivergent love languages. If you don't know about the love languages, it was a theory developed by the Chapmans. There's a book. I'm not taking credit for this. And those 5 love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service. And it's been used a lot in couples therapy or just to help couples understand how to speak to each other in a way that the other person feels loved. We are now realizing that this doesn't necessarily work for neurodivergent people. We have our own version of those love languages. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And this was inspired by my husband asking how to love a neurodivergent person most effectively. So I am going to go ahead and we'll go through each one and you guys can jump in and discuss how either it feels for you or what you like or what you don't like. But before doing that, do you guys know what your traditional love languages would be? Have you ever done the love language test or looked at it?
I am quality time with a second of acts of service.
Okay. Jenny, have you ever looked at it?
Yeah, I read the book. Am all of them. I do all of those things for whoever I'm with, and I want all of those things as well. I think the hardest one for me to deal with, though, is the physical touch one. Because if you're not my romantic person, I do not want to be touched unless you ask me first. But when I'm in a romantic relationship, I am awful for PDA. My hand is going to be on you somewhere at all times. And if you are not touching me in some way, I'm going to feel like you hate me. You know what I mean? And that is, some guys will hear that and be like, oh, that's my girl. That's what I want. No, it is draining. People do not like that.
Yeah, so I was going to guess that your top one would be physical touch, just from what I know about you. And maybe you could go through the test. There's one that scores it for you. So it's the ones you have the most of. Because you could have some in all of them, but whatever ones you have the most of.
Words of affirmation. That's a big one.
Yeah. And mine are quality time first. Words of affirmation is my second. That's where we would fall. But like you said, I think part of the reason you might be struggling to identify them is because they're not made for neurodivergent people. So rather, words of affirmation means saying things like telling someone when they've done something well, like you appreciate them, telling them they're beautiful, telling them good things, basically. And that's my biggest one. So I want that. I always want that. If I'm not getting like response and like someone telling me like you're doing good, I appreciate you, I love you, you're beautiful, then I'm like, they don't like me. But there is I don't know how to say it. There's the neurodivergent version of this is info dumping, which is words, but not so much words of information. It's sharing. It's the info dumping. It's sharing about your special interest, your special
it's
topic.
Words of information instead of words of affirmation.
Yeah. Yes.
That makes so much more sense for me because words of affirmation, they don't do anything for me. I can appreciate being told I'm proud of you, but I'm like, that's something you tell your next door neighbor when they get an A on their math test.
You tell your next door neighbor you're proud of them.
if you're close to them, sure. Maybe you're friends with your neighbors. Hello, sir.
I just
so
want to
proud
tell
of you. Okay.
I'm
You know what
proud of the way
I'm
you mowed that.
Maybe he Good job. You know what I meant. But
Oh,
it's
God.
so much better because you have to connect with someone to share that. And then that makes it mean more because saying, hey, you're beautiful, or I don't know, good job, I'm proud of you. That's cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's what it does for me. And I don't think that makes more sense. The info dumping, the deep connecting thing makes so much more sense to me.
Deep connecting thing. That's what makes it, and that's why you can't do it. If someone else won't info dump back at you, you can't connect with them. If you're like, blah, 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 and then they're just like...
Yes. It's enraging if I info dump, oh, look at this thing I did, blah, 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 and at the end they go, I'm proud of you. Why did I share that with you?
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah, basically. And then I'll probably never share again.
And they're like, oh, thanks for that. And then, like, 3 months later, like, they didn't listen to the playlist. I'm like, that hurts my feelings. I want you to be like, dude, this line in track 3 had me like, come on, give me something. Relate to me here.
Yeah. I think it's because it's an intimate act. Sharing like, information, like playlists that we hold dear, is here's this
it's a part of me.
Yeah, and if they go, thanks, and then no follow-up, okay, I'm going to take that back now.
Yeah, no
like,
more spoons for you.
Part of my soul. Yeah. Although I think I did that to you, Jenny, because I remember you sent a playlist a long time ago, and then I didn't listen to it, but then I wanted to listen to it while running, and I couldn't find it, so I had to shamefully ask you, where is playlist, so I can listen to now, because I just now I'm able to do it. So there's that. I've recognized that with my friends, with you guys, because I know that I might send something to you, and you may not read it or listen to it right away, and I know it doesn't mean the same thing as when I send it to someone else, and they're like, and then forget about it. Either you're overwhelmed and can't process it right then, and almost always you still remember it and we'll circle back later and talk about it. But I have learned that if I want someone to, if it's important to me, I tell them, this is very important to me, please listen to it. Because then I'm like, then they didn't know, but I feel like I know because that's how I would be. But I also realize other people don't think like me, so then I'm like, yeah. But that's why I wanted to...
It comes back to the secure attachments, though. Because we have secure attachments with each other. If I send you a playlist, I am not going to be bothered like you didn't get to it right now. Because I know what probably happened is you had an ADHD moment and it left your brain and then you forgot about it. And because that happens to me, too. But there are certain people who are in that testing period where you're still not sure if this is someone you can invest in, if they're a safe person for you. And then you do something to express yourself so that they can relate to you and understand you better. And it's just not received at all.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
Yes. So that, and I think when you're getting to know someone, you're much more likely to be like really focused on everything they're sending you. So that's like when you talk to someone every day, you're like, oh yeah, because it's normal at that point, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to think about that after work or something like that. But if it's someone new you're talking to, they tend to be more invested out the gate, and if they can't even do it then, yeah. So yeah, the info dumping, which can often come from us in the form of songs or look at this cool thing that I saw, which isn't necessarily even info, but it's still us being like, look, please love this as much as I do. And
check out my anime figurines.
Yes, exactly. And of course, no one's going to love something, so another neurodivergent person with the same hyperfixation probably will, and that's great, but we're narrowing the window of people at that point. So you have to like know that someone may not love it as much as you, but they should love you enough to be like, love that you love that. Understand that it means a lot to you, so I want to show that it means a lot to me just because it means a lot to you. That thing.
Yeah.
And probably the closest thing I can relate that to for maybe a neurotypical person is if you have a child who's ever played Minecraft or any video game that they're really into, and you've listened to them tell you about Minecraft for an hour straight while you're trying to make dinner. It's that. And you don't tell them to shut up. You act like it's the coolest thing you've ever heard. That's what you should be doing. You can be like, hey, I can't listen to you, and I really want to hear everything you're saying. So let me finish this, then I'll come and sit with you. I had to do that a lot because I was like, I can't make dinner. It's not in stop. So then I'd be like, hey, buddy, I definitely want to hear about this. Let me finish dinner, and then I could get myself in a place where I'm like, I'm ready to listen now. I'm ready to receive the info.
Yeah.
That.
Partners.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes.
If you have an adult partner who's trying to share with you, they want you to listen. They're sharing because they want you to listen. If you are in a moment where they're sharing because it just happened to be when their excitement peaked, say exactly what Jackie just said. Say, hey, I really want to know about this. I'm very excited about your excitement. Can we, like, push this off to when I'm not busy? Easy. They'll be like, yeah. And then they're going to anticipate the time you spend with them later talking about it, which is even, like, better sometimes. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
It shows you how much boundaries actually help you love the other person. The boundaries are for the other person, too, because there's nothing worse, and I'm sure you can all attest to this, than you share something you're really excited about, and you get this half-assed, or they just, like, nod, or they're definitely not into it, and you know that. That's way worse. Say nothing. Tell me you can't listen right now. Tell me you'll listen later. Don't just act like we're not dumb. And I know that sometimes people do that to their children too. And trust me, your children know as well. They know you're not into it. They're just going to tell you anyway. And so am I. I will also often keep talking. Sometimes I'll shut down, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm on a roll and I'm going to finish this. So having that boundary is a good thing to do. Anything else on that one before I move on to the next one? I was thinking with the words of affirmation, even that's my biggest one. As Katie was talking, I was thinking about that only is for some people, though. Because there's some people that could tell me, like, oh, you look great, or that's awesome. And I'm just like, I'll say thank you. But it doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know them, or I think they're saying it for some ulterior motive reason. Yeah. So only the people that I care about what they think. Does that apply to me?
Yeah, because I agree with that statement. Because a lot of people, they say it, I'm just like, cool. But there are people, a handful of people like you guys, my husband, some of my family that could say, hey, I'm proud of you. And it would hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. You'd be like,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it just doesn't fall like super high on mine. Mine's definitely quality time and acts of service type deal. But I'm very specific with the acts of service. It's not just do things for me.
Yes.
But we'll get there, I'm sure.
Yes, we will.
I was just going to say that I was just thinking about, am I really a words of affirmation person, or is that my trauma response to always feeling like I'm walking on eggshells? That's needing to know exactly where I stand. I don't want to be missing something here.
And I think that's part of why I'm not. I was for a very long time, like I needed that validation, and then I realized needing that validation was a trauma response for me. And then once I was like, you know what, I am who I am, whatever, your thoughts of me and your opinions of me don't reflect me in any way, I realized that fell like much lower on the list. And that's when I realized quality time is huge, because spending quality time with someone is like very fundamental to building connections. And then acts of service, specific acts of service, are very fundamental to seeing the level of sacrifice and like compromises you can do for each other. And I think that tends to me speak much more volume and intimately than, hey, you're beautiful or I'm proud of you. But it took a lot of inner reflection for me to get to that point, because I was deep in the whole needing words of affirmation validation hole for a very long time because of trauma.
I think, I'm not sure if this falls under quality time, but just to be seen and to be heard. I think if I feel seen and I feel heard, I don't really need words of affirmation because I'm seeing it in your action. But it's not necessarily acts of service. It's, I see you, I hear you, and I value you.
That's exactly it.
That
exactly
and physical touch, that's me. And like my idea of gift giving is feeding people. I show up with snacks. I find out what your favorite snacks are, and I show up with a random snack, or I've baked something, or I made a lasagna, and I've walked it 2 blocks over to my friend's house because there's a whole house full of people playing Minecraft, and they're all neurodivergent and trying to explain it to me, who is not a gamer, and they're having a great time, and we're loving each other. It's great.
Yeah. I'm going to use that to I'm just going to skip down to the gift giving because you just did a segue there. Rather than giving gifts, which was pretty straightforward, gift giving. And this is one of my husband's favorite ways to show love for me is to give me gifts. And it's like one of the lowest ones on mine. Yeah. So that's where this becomes a problem because he thinks all these squishmallows and stuff on my bed is stuff my husband has given me. He loves to give me gifts. I think because for him, he feels competent in that area and he knows the things I like. So he just like sticks to that. And I'm like, cool, but also could we talk about something? And we've done an activity over the last month that is focused around words of affirmation. And he's actually excelling, doing awesome at that. But
I love that.
On to it's the John Gottman's couples therapy 6 magic hours in case you're in a relationship and you would like to improve it. There's that. Anyway, with giving gifts for neurodivergent people, we do what's called penguin pebbling, which I use that term a lot, but then I realized like that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. So let me explain it. So there's those rock hopper penguins and they like get rocks and they give them to someone they want to be their mate, and then they build their nest out of those rocks. So they're just giving each other like pretty rocks all the time. And that is what we like to do the most. We don't necessarily need this big expensive gift. We don't need to spend a ton of time I find something that's cool, like a stick or a rock, and I'm like, this is so cool. You are also cool. I give it to you. I love this stick. I love you. So here, I give this stick I love to you. It's that kind of thing, which is very similar, bringing people food. Yeah, especially the ones they really like.
My niece does that. If she finds a neat looking shell or a rock, or she's been working on crocheting, so she's made some little coaster like things. I made this bracelet. I want you to have it. I want you to have this. I want you to have that. And I'm like, honey, I can't take all of your stuff back to my country in this suitcase, but I love you and I appreciate you wanting to give it to me. Why don't you hold on to it for me and keep it safe? But then I realized maybe she would feel loved if I gave her some of my stuff. So I gave her one of my cardigans, and she wears it to school, and she feels like she's the coolest person in the world. It's neon pink, and it's oversized. She looks so cute. I love it.
Yeah. She really is like a mini you. I remember saying that at the dinner.
Yeah.
I remember being like, she's just you, little you.
She weirdly looks like a cross between me and my sister-in-law's sister. And we don't look anything alike, but it's weird because you can see both of us in her. But yeah, she's amazing. And she made that little hat for Gary Fitzsimmons.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And maybe it's, again, with the childlikeness, that's something that kids do all the time. We just keep doing it. I know I talked to both of you about, I won't go into it, but just like how much it hurts when you give somebody something that maybe wasn't this like big expensive gift, but then they like didn't want it and gave it away. And you're like, but I put so much thought into that.
Even if it's not big and expensive, that still is one of the biggest blows because we put so much thought into everything.
Yeah, like it was a big deal to us because of that whole like the meaning we put behind it thing. Precisely. And I was talking, like reviewing this in my mind, processing it, and one of the best things I've ever gotten from my son is this really cheap, stretchy rhinestone, like plastic rhinestone bracelet. It's like one of those stretchy bracelets, but it's like thick and it's got like plastic rhinestones. And he found it on the floor at school when he was in 5th grade. It was on the ground and he was like, oh, my mom loves jewelry, and that's jewelry, and it's sparkly. It's like diamonds. And he picked it up and he gave it to me.
That's cute.
In a box, wrapped at Christmas in a little box with stuffing. And I pull it, it's like this plastic rhinestone bracelet. I still have it and I still wear it and I will never get rid of it because he saw that as a sign from God. God gave him this gift to give to his mother by dropping it on the floor.
Oh, I love
and he was
that
like,
so
it was meant
much.
to be. And that's penguin pebbling. And that's the kind of gift giving that's what we mean. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't even have to be, it could be something like, I would have never been like, I would really like a plastic rhinestone stretchy bracelet. That's what will make my day. It wasn't that at all. It wasn't the gift. Yeah. It was the intent behind the gift.
Yes, exactly. I feel like that's the kind of meet cute that I need.
I missed, what was that?
That's the type of meet cute that I need. Yes, if somebody approached me in the wild and was like, hey, I was looking at this album artwork and I thought you might like this, I would be like, oh, sir, thank you.
Like, yes.
Oh. Yeah.
Two things I'm going to say here. And I think it might segue us into the next one. First and foremost, one of my favorite movies ever when I was a child was literally The Pebble and the Penguin. If you've not seen it, watch it. It's phenomenal. It's a penguin on a journey to find the most beautiful pebble for the person he wants to mate. And he's like the underdog penguin, and he's got to fight bad guys, and I love it. I still have the VHS. It's one of the only VHSs that I ever actually kept. And it's a very obscure movie, so most people haven't heard of it.
I've heard of it. I have heard of it.
Love it so much. Secondly, I find... So, yes, gift giving. I like to give gifts, but I think it's because... But like I said, it doesn't fall high on my list, so I'm not like a huge receiving person, but I like to give because the people that I give to, I spend like all year listening to them talk and taking in who they are as a person, and then I'm like, yay, I get to take this bits of themselves that they've given me and find the perfect gift for them. And usually it's the silliest, smallest little gift ever, but I know it's something that like makes me think of them. But then also, I was sitting here pondering it, and like, I think my brain crosses wires between what I consider acts of service and gift giving. So, like, for me, like, someone bringing me, like, food, I think I line that more under acts of service than gift giving. I don't consider that a gift. Be. I consider that someone being like, hey, I know you don't have brain to eat most of the time.
Right.
And
in that
I know
case,
that
it
this
is
this. Here, I'm helping you eat. So I think that I have a hard time distincting between acts of service and quality time, and I think that might be why my acts of service don't quite line up with others' acts of service. Do things for me type deal.
I think it goes back to, for me, I feel like I jumble all of them into seeing and hearing each other. In terms of, you're going through a hard time, somebody shows up with a casserole, they're seeing a need in you, and they are providing that because they care. Does that make sense? It doesn't really matter if you call it acts of service. I just feel like I always try to lead in kindness and lead in love and have boundaries, obviously, but as long as I am present in seeing and hearing the person that I'm dealing with at that time, like, how can you not do all the things that make them feel loved, whatever that is?
You can. And that's where these love languages are just like a jumping off place. But honestly, we should be able to do most of them. Some of them are going to mean more to us than others. And what you're saying is, what you're describing is being attuned to someone, like tuning into someone. We call it attunement, and that's talked about in the couples therapy stuff, John Gottman too. So attuning to other people means you see them and you hear them. And you would think that would be like, duh. But most people don't do that. They do not attune to the people around them. But neurodivergent people do because they had to. So we get really good at it. So we're really good at tuning into the other people, knowing what they want and need, and giving that to them. But then they don't do it back. And we're like, boo.
And then it feels like neglect.
If you look at the acts of service and what Katie's describing, this makes perfect sense. Acts of service in like neurotypical people, regular, the plain old acts of service would be anything that, like, I'm going to help do the dishes, I'm going to take the trash out, that kind of stuff, which, that could be. But what they put for the neurodivergent version of that is spoon swapping or support swapping. And that's one of the things I preach big time to. About it. And I always use both of you as examples without using your names. I say my two best friends that I have, the ones that I know that I can go to with anything. If I say, yeah, I can't do that right now, they're not going to make me feel guilty. And there's times when I show up for them because I can tell I have the spoons and they don't. And there's times when they have the spoons and I don't. And we just like trade spoons. Like, you need some extra spoons? I have some. Sometimes we all don't have spoons and we just lay in a pile and cry. And then we get spoons and then we share.
I did not. That's exactly what it is. Because with me, my acts of service are very much, and it's usually you guys and Andrew, really, that I experience it with. Being like, hey, I can't do this today. And then they pick it up, and vice versa. It's not, oh, I expect you to take the trash out, or expect you to do this, or that is that. It's no, I'm struggling right now because of this. And then the other person goes, okay, I got you, no worries. Yeah. And that's huge. Yep. And again, goes back to the attunement thing, like recognizing the human experience of the partner and what they need in that moment.
I also feel like sometimes, you know, I don't have the spoons for myself, but if Katie or Jackie came to me and were like, girl, have you got any spoons? All of a sudden, I found an extra spoon I didn't realize was there.
Yeah, I do that too. I do a lot more for people that are not me than what I do for myself.
Yeah.
That we probably shouldn't do, but we talked about that in the anxiety one. Yeah. Well, that it was easier.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It can be a motivator is what it is. It's because it's hard sometimes. I'm like, oh, I don't have the spoons. I'm tired. I want to lay in bed. But if someone important to me goes, I'm having a really bad day, or I need this or this, I'm like, okay, you know what? I have an extra reserve of spoons. Emergency spoons, if you will. Let me pull one of those out.
I don't use them for just anyone, but I will for you. Yes.
Precisely.
Yes.
I also feel like it's a level of distraction as well when you don't have spoons and you all of a sudden have energy to help somebody else with their spoons because you're like, oh, I don't have to think about my depletion because I can focus on theirs.
That is, yes, that's often what's happening. And it's driven, it is like distraction, and then you're probably actually just running on forks and not spoons, but you're like, I'm here.
What the fork is happening?
Like the ski, like people ski poles. We're just dragging ourselves along.
Yeah, guys, I'm here. I got silverware. It's like sporks, plastic sporks.
Lose a couple prongs along the way.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But that is a huge one, and if you don't have that, when I talk to neurodivergent people, I'm like, if you don't have people in your life that you can tell them where you're at, and they understand and they don't make you feel guilty about it, or can't work with you, like, that's detrimental to your health. That you need that. As a neurodivergent person, you need someone that can co-regulate or body double with you, and it should go both ways. Which leads me to another thought I was having earlier, that because we do this for each other, we do this for everyone. We see someone struggling, oh, I'm going to help you with my extra spoons. And then they just take the spoons and go on with their day and don't say thank you. And they don't understand how hard that was for you. They're not and it's not reciprocal. Which then
it's the sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like people, because it's our nature, they feel entitled. And then when you have boundaries, they feel slighted by you when they never were entitled to it in the first place.
Yep.
I think it can also be, and I'm trying to figure out how to word this towards, it doesn't sound awful. Entitlement, yes, but also ignorance. And I say gently.
They don't know.
Ignorance to the struggles. Ignorance to wanting to learn the struggles, the ignorance of understanding individual disorders. The person has to be willing to sit down and understand autism, understand ADHD, OCD, POTS, Ehlers-Danlos, all of those things. They're different. They do different things to the body and the brain. If you have more than one, it can cause different flares at different times. That person has to understand that so that they can see, hey, oh my gosh, she's giving me a spoon that she really doesn't have.
Yeah.
I need to cherish this gift with everything and make sure they're okay on the other side, or give back a spoon when I can. Yep. But a lot of people just sit in that ignorance, truthfully. They hear you go, oh, I have ADHD, and they're like, cool. And they have no drive or understanding of what that means, and they have, oh, it means they're distracted easily. No. No. But okay.
Yes, that exactly, because I just lost my train of thought so hard then. But I was with you with that, and I was going to say something about it. Oh, that they just don't understand. I don't think they realize, because they see us giving. And in their minds, you don't give if you have nothing to give. That's impossible. We're high masking neurodivergent people. We do the impossible every day. Somehow we do it, and they're seeing that. But they see us like doing it, and they think, well, if you can do it, then go for it. Then it must be easy for you. And in which case I can just easily take it, because you wouldn't give it if it wasn't naturally coming easily to you, because that's what they do. They can't comprehend how much effort we put into doing, even when we're not out of spoons, how much our spoons are costing when we give them to them. They don't understand that, because they wouldn't do that.
No, and that's the thing. They don't understand the amount of openness and willingness we have to give to those around us, albeit sometimes to our own detriment, but
yeah.
Which is, there's a boundary that they have where they don't ever give their spoons. They guard their spoons.
Yeah.
Understood. And that's a good thing. However, there are times when there's like a balance on each side. They have to learn how to give, and we have to learn how to be like, we don't have any to give.
Yes.
It's hard on both sides, but yeah.
Yeah. And they don't know what it feels like, so they can't comprehend that we could just be walking around. And we talked about this with the anxiety one. They're not comprehending that we're just walking around in this constant state of deprivation, anxiousness, and despair. Trying, okay, let me see if I can make a spoon out of this mud real quick, and then I'll give it to you. And then they're like, thanks for the spoons. And they just go, yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah, or they're asking for something and you're like mentally staring at the 2 spoons you have left that you had mapped out. One's for dinner and one's for fun time. And you're like, oh, I guess I gotta give one of those.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's so real. And and then if you don't, because they don't understand, you often get the, you're selfish.
Yep.
You don't care about me.
Yep.
And you're like, they're sitting over there with 10 spoons, and they're like, give me one of your spoons. You got 2, and they're like, if you don't give me your spoon, you're selfish. And you're like,
yeah, I keep the soup spoon for myself. You can have the tea spoon as and when.
I've had it occur to me where you're trying to explain the extent to where I'm exhausted, I'm not okay. And they're like, you can't possibly be that exhausted. That's an over-exaggeration. If you were that exhausted this, or you were that's not true.
And no, because they can't comprehend that. Because if they were as exhausted as you were, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They'd be like, that's ridiculous, and they'd throw a fit, and they wouldn't do it. I know, because I've seen that happen. And that's when I realized there was a double standard, because I was like, wait, you're not even doing remotely close to what I'm doing, and you just had a full, I can't do this, breakdown, but you expected me to do quadruple that last week. And so that's what made me start seeing the difference, because we didn't know. We're being told this stuff. We're internalizing it as children, being like, oh, I have to do this or else I'm bad. I need to minimize my needs, not need anything, and give for people to think I'm worth being around, apparently.
Yeah. I feel like people have misconceptions about me because I don't leave my house. But I can meet my friends in town for 2 hours and be the life of the party. So anyone I come into contact with is like, where have you been? You've been here for 9 years and I don't know you? This is crazy. And they expect me to be life of the party all the time, but then they don't see me again for like months. And I'm not in that mood, and I'm just talking to them like I'm talking to you now. And they're like, who are you? What? And I'm like, this is me. Get with it or get out, buddy.
Yep. Yeah, because you can't do that every day. It's not natural.
I can't do it like 3 times a month.
No, same.
Not a party girl, but I can be the party for 2 hours.
Yep. There's a time limit. When it runs out, it's like, all right, time to go. And that's where I tell people to have an escape plan. That's what I call it. I'm like, and have someone with you who all you have to do is do a hand signal to and be like, or send them a text or give them a look and then be like, all right, we're going to have to go now. Because that the spoons just went to empty, like, immediately, and you're done.
But my friends are used to me, so they're not put off by me being abrupt. So I'll be having a great time or whatever, and then I'll just turn and say, it's time to go. Have a good night.
Yes.
Excuse me. And they just all smile and wave or give me a little hug, and then I go. Nobody says anything because they know that if I make myself stay past that point, that it's not going to be fun for me.
No. Yes. That's perfect. And that's I feel like I can do that with both of you. And I can do it now with my husband as well now. But it took a long time for him to understand this, because he could go to a party. He loves parties, even though he won't be the life of the party. There were times in his life he chose to not continue that. But he will just sit there and absorb it, and he just loves it. He just likes being in the middle of all these people talking. And I do not. But now he understands it better and knows that I have to get out of there. And I'm like, you can stay, but get me out without a scene, please. Like, I have to get out. So it's so important, and you don't have to be neurodivergent to understand this, but we understand each other best. But the neurotypical people can learn to accommodate neurodivergent people by just not judging them for these things. No, she wasn't rude. It would have been more rude, even though it wouldn't have been rude, if she stayed and then had a meltdown and yelled at you because you were in her face. That would have been worse.
Which has
She's
happened.
being nice to you. Yes. You don't want that. When I make these little moves, I am being very kind to you, and you should just let me go. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that, the spoon swapping, before we have 2 more to go through? Okay. Quality time we'll jump into, then we'll do physical touch last, because that's a thing. Quality time is, again, I think the whole, like, being heard and being seen is, like, the main thing that neurodivergent people crave, because we're never heard and seen for who we really are. So I think that's a big part of all of those. Like, you both have mentioned that. But quality time, that's spending time with somebody where they're not, and it's not being interrupted by someone on their phone or doing something else at the same time. You're not necessarily in a giant group. It's usually one-on-one, and especially if you're neurodivergent, one-on-one is usually best, or small group. And we like parallel play, which I used to think I wasn't about the parallel play until I realized that what I was doing was parallel play. It's just I was also info dumping and parallel playing at the same time. And that is not what the other people are doing, apparently. Because I was like, no, I like to talk when I play. But I was like, oh, it's not the same. So for listeners, parallel play is where you're with someone. You could be in the same room. You're doing something right next to each other, but you're not necessarily working on the same thing together. You're not group work activity doing it together. And at times you may not even be talking. You might just be together, which is where it got confusing for me, because I do like to talk while doing it. But I could be doing something while someone else is doing something completely different, and we're just next to each other and we're focused on our thing, and then we're info dumping at the same time.
Our virtual art things. You know?
Yeah. So that makes me wonder if, like, other people wouldn't do that. If that would be weird for other people to each work on their individual piece of art independently while saying things at each other.
Well, I don't know, like crochet and knitting groups exist, book clubs exist.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of finding people that have your shared interests. I feel like there should be more, like, art groups and, like, virtual hangs and things like that, because I do have a group of friends here that are amazing, but my core people who know me inside and out and love me through and through, my safe people, are all over the place in America. So being able to be around more than one of them at a time is pretty much impossible.
Yeah. Katie, were you going to say something?
No, I was just pondering how weird it would be for people to not do that. But
I know.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and I'm like, parallel play makes sense to us because we like our own stuff. Most of the time, we like people to not be in our stuff. We just like our stuff.
Yes.
Doing it together makes sense. I was sitting here and I was pondering what quality time would mean for neurotypical people. And my brain is, like, trying to give examples of it. And I'm thinking it's probably just, I don't know, doing things together focused on each other whole, like dates. I
Yeah.
like dates. I go out to dinner with Andrew all the time, but it doesn't ever really feel like quality time to me. I end up still leaving being like, I need more time with you.
Yeah.
Like doing something else.
Yes.
So I was just pondering that.
I think this is the reason why I had all guy friends. And that makes sense to me now. Because I think what most females would consider quality time who are not neurodivergent is let's all sit down together and get coffee and chat. Which is a nightmare to me. That's nightmare fuel. Katie face.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I like a good coffee date, but I don't think I've ever just done like a coffee date where we just sit and drink coffee and chat. It's always like we grab coffee and then we're doing something that means
exactly.
something to us. Like we have coffee and crafts or coffee and talking about nature or
and go to Goodwill.
The water. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I know that could be a thing too, and I'm thinking it has to do with the type of conversation that's happening, because that's why I couldn't do it, because you're not info dumping and you're not being unmasked. You have to sit and you have to talk about. I just remember I have this very vivid realization moment burned in my mind of being at a party when I was in high school at my neighbor's house that was like probably 50 people were in there. The guys were all over at this like food section, all laughing and joking, and the girls were all sitting in this circle talking about boys they had made out with. And I was just like, I just kept looking over at the guys like, oh my God, that looks fun. I want to do that. I don't have anything to add to this. I don't know what's happening. I can't tell when it's my turn to talk. I don't understand this. And so I just got up and went over and ended up with me standing on top of a bar and reciting things and making noises. And it was going great over there with the guys. And then I look over and all the girls were just staring at me. And one of them said, look at Jackie with all the guys. And like insinuating that I was like doing that to get male attention. When in reality, I was just really having a good time. And I will always take it to the next level. But it had nothing to do with it. It was just that I was moving and doing something and laughing.
Having fun.
And that made sense to me. Yeah. And I realized then, I was like, I don't understand female socialization. And I also realized that if I were to go on a date with a neurotypical guy, I don't understand that either. I don't do well with that either. Because they ask me it's weird. There's like unspoken rules. I don't understand what's happening. If I can't just be like, so let's talk about your trauma or let's talk about rocks, then I can't do it.
I want to know the real stuff.
Yeah.
None of this wonderful weather we're having. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who are
like
you? I want to know what makes you tick.
Yeah, like attempts to impress me or something. That's just weird, and I'm uncomfortable.
I think it's the mask. And I was sitting here thinking that because I'm like pondering like why. Because I'm going to dinner with my husband. We've been together for almost 12 years now. He knows me in and out. I unmask around him. But why is it still that I feel like I leave and it didn't give me what I want? And it's because I think even on dates like you're talking about, female social interactions, they're all it's all a mask.
Masking.
It's you go to a restaurant or a coffee shop, you sit, you hold still, you don't talk too loud, you don't laugh too loud. Certain topics shouldn't be talked about, blah, blah, blah. It's annoying and basic and surface level. But then parallel play and or just spending like crazy, ridiculous fun time like you were on the bar. It's the mask is gone. You're doing what you want to do. You're invested in it. If you're info dumping, it's because you're excited about what you're doing. Yeah. And even if you're doing two different things, one will be like, yeah, this rock going through this Tumblr is cool. And the other one's like, oh my God, I found the perfect color marker. Like,
Yes.
It makes sense. It removes that layer of, I have to act like a human.
Yeah. But that's what it is for me. What I associate with quality time is the ability, I guess it's along the same lines of, oh gosh, I forget the word, play. The one you've been using. Yes, parallel play.
Parallel play. Sorry,
brain farted.
I was like...
Everyone's just looking at me and I'm like, somebody help me out here.
You're like
Words aren't wording. But the ability to just exist in that person's energy. Like you're existing in each other's energy together. You don't have to be doing the same thing. But it's just an appreciation for each other's existence in the same space.
Yeah.
For me, that's what quality time is. And if I feel like they're not present with me in that moment, even if we're doing other things, if I feel like they're not appreciating my energy to me, then I feel like, oh, I didn't get that quality time.
Exactly. Yep. And that used to be a big thing for my husband and I, because we would go out and do all these things that I really enjoyed. But if he wasn't 100% like engaged with me, I was like, that was dumb. All of that meant nothing. And then he'd be upset because he spent like the whole day with me. And I'm like, yeah, but you weren't there. So it didn't work. You have to be just as into whatever you're doing. I don't care what it is. So then I was like, if you want to do something different, there's something you're into, I'd rather do that with you than you just follow me around doing what I want to do, because that's not making me happy because you're not doing it with me. And
ticking a box, that's not investment.
Yes, exactly. My husband has been on this journey of understanding how to love a neurodivergent person. So he's very good at all these things now, and just recently has even gotten even better. But these are things that we had to fight through. So it is hard. You have to have somebody who's willing to learn a different way of behaving and not judging it and saying it's okay to do things differently. And what we both found is, as we're going through this process, realizes that he would like to be more like me, which is pretty cool. Because at first that's not right. That's weird that you care, that you do it that way. And now it's I would like to be able to just be that silly. I would like to be able to do that. So there's options for growth and for everyone there. And I also think like males in general parallel play more often, and that's why we get along better. Often get along better with guys, because they'll both just sit down and like dig in the dirt, or like they'll go to guys do activities together. They go play a sport together. They go golf together. They don't sit around in a circle and chat. Not saying they can't ever do that, but they just don't. And I think that's why it worked out better.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's more socially accepted. So any more on that? And then I'll move on to the last one.
Oh,
I can tell that we are all thinking very deeply about these things, because you all are like, I can tell you're not like, you're like.
I was pondering what you said about Scott and how he is wanting, as he's opening up and embracing that he's seeing, I think, and he's wanting to be more like that, and I was pondering what that is, and I think it's the energetic ability to just be joyful and happy. Is what I think that's what it is, and the smaller appreciations of things in life, and a lot of people don't get that, and that's why they do weird things. Let's go clothing shopping. That's not to say that's weird. It's just not our idea of a fun time, because we would rather be doing
it's a neurotypical thing to do.
So like we would rather just be like, look at this leaf or this acorn or let's draw what's in our brain to get it on a piece of paper. And I think that's just enjoying the foundation of the human experience and like Mother Nature and energy and our creative existence. And I think that's a foreign concept to a lot of people. And I think the male population is probably closer to that in the activities that they do, and the fact that they're just like out doing things all the time. It's less consumerism based for the male population is what it is. So they're closer to, this is going to sound maybe a little woo-woo, but I feel like they're closer to like and the energetic creation that we all come from, and like Mother Earth, and that it just makes it a more joyful time. And then let's go shopping. I hate shopping. Shopping is the bane of my existence.
Yes.
But shopping and thrifting are two different vibes.
Facts.
Right.
Why is that? Like, when you're thrifting, it's like, this is the most amazing experience I've ever had.
Yeah. Thrifting is because we're looking for the weird and wonderful and, like, laughing at it.
Something we connect to.
You go there.
It's like something
wonderful and the human. I think
it
feels
the humanity
more
of it.
Human, because then you can like see all these personalities in one spot. Oh, this person is like a weird dog in a
Somebody
bathtub
made
hanging
this.
Up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Like that thing you found. What was it? It was a board. It said something like "not well." It was like somebody made a craft.
It was like unwell.
Unwell.
Yeah.
With crafting letters. Like you're like, that. Wow, I feel that. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I need one that's like unclean. Like, just stay away from this house. We're riddled with leprosy here.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think it's it's stuff they don't want, that they wanted to get rid of, which is the stuff that we like relish in, the stuff that other people don't want to show. We're like, yes, give it to me. I love that stuff.
Doing restorative, transformative things that have been discarded. I don't know what it is about that, but that gives me life.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably partially why I am obsessed with drag queens and always have been since I was like little. I love it.
Yeah.
That freedom of expression.
Because that's the other part of it, I think, is not caring what other people think. They're too ingrained. They have too much of that hierarchy thinking ingrained in them, and that you should be this way, you shouldn't be this way, this is adult, this is child, this is this, all these labels, and we don't care about that. And I think that's why we trigger them a lot, and at the same time they wish they could have it.
Yeah.
And it's sad to watch because, like, you totally can. You don't have to care what anyone else thinks. Yeah, they're going to think you're weird, and there are some social ramifications to that, but, like, totally worth it. And we just couldn't help it. We just didn't get the choice. We tried. We made epic masks, and it still wasn't enough. So, like, at some point, you just got to accept your fate. You're not fitting in.
Yeah. Whereas
they have that choice. They can fit in. And so then they have to actually make the choice to purposely not fit in, that would be probably hard. The last one is physical touch. And that is always a touchy one. That's touchy. It's touchy. With neurodivergent people, especially if you have sensory issues, mostly related to autism, but you can have them with ADHD too. So physical touch, I have to always tell this when I do couples, not just sex. We're not just talking about sex. Because men are always like, mine's physical touch. Okay, but that also includes like holding hands when you're out, snuggling on the couch. That we're not actually talking about sex. Sex is something else. That is something we're going to remove from the physical touch category because it belongs in its own thing. We can't make that a love language. The danger in that is if sex is part of a love language, then you have to give it to that person to show them that you love them. No, we're not doing that.
No, that's abuse.
Exactly. No, you do not have to give that to anyone, even if you're married to them. So there's that. But physical touch just means physical closeness to someone else and being able to express that through touch.
Yeah.
And then if you have sensory issues or if you have autism or whatever, it can be different kinds of physical touch mean different things. So this is like the best one. They call it, please crush my soul back into my body. That is what they've put for the neurodivergent version of physical touch. Mm-hmm. Which, if anyone has sensory issues, everyone I talk to, for the most part, doesn't like soft little caresses. Yeah. Do not tap me. Do not softly caress me. And those are normal neurotypical touchings. Don't grab my hand and pull me somewhere. I am going to go limp and turn into a toddler and refuse to move. Like, I can't deal with it. But if someone gives me like really hard pressure massage or literally just lays on me and squishes me, I'm like, yay. That feels good. Mm-hmm. And then there's timing. The timing of physical touch is everything. Anyone want to run with this? Share some thoughts about this? I could say a lot more, but give you guys a chance.
Yes. The physical touch thing is, okay, kind of like twofold. I agree, the light touches make me homicidal. Like a light caress actually feels like my skin is being burnt off of my body. And it's a nightmare, actually. But I have a weighted blanket that I adore because it is that heavy pressure. And sometimes when I'm like very anxious or borderline panic attack, Andrew knows, and I can both ask, or he'll just do it to do it if he sees it. He will literally flop his entire body on top of me. He makes sure I can breathe because breathing is important. But he will just lay on top of me until I'm like, okay, I'm good, get off. But also with the timing thing is important because I spend a lot of time just not wanting to be touched.
Same.
We use different blankets in bed. We never share a blanket because I can feel his body heat, and just the body heat alone is enough, let alone if he actually touched me, it will send me spiraling. And he's gotten used to, like, if he comes on my side of the bed at the night, I will try to nudge him. And if he doesn't move, I get aggressive. I'm like, get off of me! I'll punch him until he moves. Because I can't. It's too much. So he knows, like, when touch is allowed. And we've got a system down for initiating hugs. He knows usually I initiate them, but if he wants a hug, he knows how to get that from me without being, like, too much.
No surprise hugs.
Yes. Yeah, and I struggle, like, I like to hold hands, but I also struggle with holding hands because there's just too many sensations.
Sweaty.
And it's sweaty, and then I can feel his heartbeat. So we've gotten that down to, okay, we still want to be linked. So I just hold on to his arm most of the time. Or, like, his sleeve. I look like a toddler, but whatever. I don't care.
Yes.
And then, I'm going to say something else. Oh, I got sidetracked and I forgot what it was. Oh, I don't remember. You had said something and it gave me a third thought, but it's gone now. It must not have been important. But anyways,
it'll come back.
Yes.
All the things you say, I also do, and that's another thing that caused a lot of friction at first. I'm using, like, words about touch that aren't in the
puns,
but not really, because we weren't touching. But because he is very much like physical touch. He loves to touch and hug everyone, and to the point where I have to be like, some people don't want you to touch them. Maybe don't touch everyone.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He just means he just likes to hug everybody and loves to hold the babies and hug the people. And I had to be like, he'd do this thing where he'll grab my arm and pull me, and I'm like, ah! Like, I almost want to go, like, it's everything in me to not become violent at him. It's just, which would be so unfair because he means nothing. He's trying to help me. It's usually when he's trying to help me. So it'd be so mean if I, but I have this, like, it's like rage. It's a knee-jerk reaction rage that people need to understand, that if you touch me in a way that doesn't work for me sensory, or at a time when I cannot be touched, I am going to suddenly turn into this wrath monster that's going to come for you, and it has nothing to do with you, and I have to try so hard not to. And then you try to verbalize that to them. Listen, I don't want to be mean to you, but I can feel your energy 3 feet away from me on the bed, and it's really too much, so I'm going to put a wall of pillows between us. I'm going to build a wall between us, and it is nothing personal to you. I still love you. Yeah. And people don't handle that well.
Yeah, Andrew's had to get used to me leaving the room he's in entirely. Because
yeah, I have to do that.
Because he'll play his games, or sometimes he's just existing, and I've had a really overstimulating day, and I can still just feel the energy he's putting off, and I'm like, this is too much for me.
Yep.
And that always coincides with, like, when sounds become too much for me, because sounds become a lot very easily for me, and I'm just like, you know what? I gotta walk away. I'm gonna go over here until I don't feel like I want to homicidal maniac on the surroundings around me. Yeah, it does. It's a special, it's like a different type of rage that you don't understand until you've been there. And it can be just like the slightest touch makes you want to hurt them or rip your own skin off. And it's never a good variation of rage. No. But it's also something, like you said, a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, they take it really personally.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, I'm tearing up listening to this because at least in a romantic relationship, I need physical touch. Jackie, you mentioned that you assumed that would be mine because you saw how I was in my previous relationship. Always holding hands, like leaning on each other, head on the shoulder, little kisses on the cheek, constant like little scratches on his back, because that's what he likes. He knew not to do that to me because I don't do light touches. I don't like that. But, like, we were always, like, physically affectionate, and, like, it's emotional for me because for 2 years, like, we had a precedent of what our relationship looked like. And then when those things stopped happening, it's hard not to feel like I'm too much or I'm annoying. Yeah. And then you think, do I ever want to be in a relationship again? Because it keeps happening where I think I'm with somebody that might fit me and then disappear on me. And it's
Yep.
hard. It's really hard out here. I don't know. I need what I need, but I don't want to be annoying because I also understand other people have sensory issues that are going to conflict with me. But, like, where are the people that are okay with all of this?
Yeah, so the too much, I think that's super common for anyone with autism or ADHD to feel like they're too much. I've felt that way my entire life. That is my biggest wounding, is the too muchness. And that's been something that just recently I've been able to work through with my husband, where now he knows that he sees it, he hears it, he gets it, and he now continuously reminds me day after day, because it's going to take a long time for me to believe this, that I can have a meltdown. I can be a crazy, he calls me a sassy butt, or I can fuss him, or whatever it is. And that's, it's okay. That it's not too much. It's that he can handle it. And that's really all we need, is someone that's, no, you are doing all that, but I love that about you. I love that you are all that, you know, and it's not too much. And yeah, neurodivergent people might understand that more, but only if they're like healed and have done that for themselves. So really everyone has just as good a chance to be able to understand that this neurodivergent person needs to feel like who they are is not too much for you to handle, and you are not a burden. That is like one of our biggest wounds we carry around, which is why we mask, so we won't be too much. And then we're like palatable to the general public. Yeah. So that's very real. And I think the touching all the time. See, now I can do that. I find myself naturally wanting to touch my husband more now that I feel like seen, heard, and accepted. But that still doesn't mean that he can just touch me whenever, because I still have the sensory issues. But I naturally want to touch him more, and that's his love language, so I'm giving that to him.
My desire to want to be touched and to touch is directly linked to how connected I feel to a human. Whether that's like friends, family, him. I have to feel safe with you, connected with you, seen and heard, and then I'm like, okay. And I will do, Andrew likes his hair played with and his background, and sometimes he likes to lay on me, and those are like, I let him lay on me because that's what he likes, and sometimes it's rough, and I do it for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I need to move, I feel restrained. But yeah, it's little sacrifices you do for each other, but you have to understand each other. He knows when I'm like, okay, I absolutely cannot. Like, I'm hot, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overstimulated, I don't even want clothes on my body. He'll be like, okay. And like vice versa. So a lot of the times I will be like sitting there and I'll be like, hey, come here, you want to lay on me? And he goes, yep. I'm grinning. Like, I go through it for a little bit. Usually he falls asleep and then he like rolls off of me and I'm like, yeah, like, score. But it's always, you can find your person. And there are people out there that really like physical touch. That's not to say you can never find your person. It's just sometimes take some time to find that person.
I think it's finding the balance, because what I want is a mental, emotional connection that puts me in a space to want to be physical. But what I don't want is someone who meets me and 5 minutes later is like, I want to make out with you or come home with me. Absolutely not.
That's gross. No.
That is not me. Happen. So, like, it's, I don't know. It's a vicious cycle, because I'm very fearful of people's intentions. And because physical touch is special to me, I'm also extra guarded about it. So people don't realize that about me in the beginning. And they might give up on me, not realizing, once I feel emotionally and mentally safe with you, and you have my trust with my heart, I will be very affectionate. But I don't let just anybody in my space.
Yes. And that, to me, I'm like, this is why the physical touch gets a bad rap on the love languages, and why sex needs to be completely removed from it.
Yeah.
Because you should have an emotional connection with someone before you have sex with them. You should. Doesn't mean that we've all followed that rule through our lives, because life is hard. But and we might have thought we were when we weren't, or something like that. But that should be the ultimate goal. You shouldn't want to be touching someone physically and being in their physical energy if you are not safe in their emotional energy. And this idea that mine is physical touch, so you have to give me that, or I can't give you that. It's no. There's no, nope. Separate from the love languages, there has to be emotional connection has to happen first for there to be a true, healthy physical connection. That doesn't have anything to do with love languages.
If someone expresses a sexual interest in me too soon, I immediately shut off. I'm like, you are no longer attractive to me on any level.
You didn't get to know me. Yeah.
I do want the person I'm with to find me attractive, but I don't want to be objectified. I'm a whole person.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation and a societal conversation, but it definitely factors into this. So you can like physical touch, but not want to be touching someone that you're not that intimate with yet. These are love languages. I just met you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people don't understand the term intimacy, to be truthfully honest here. I think a lot of people think intimacy equals sex. And to me, no.
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 Not at all.
Sex is sex. Intimacy occurs prior to sex.
Yes.
Beforehand.
Correct.
It is the fundamental understanding of a human being and all the other bits that go with that.
Yeah.
Sex can be intimate, but not all sex is.
Yes.
There's like the vulnerability and the openness and the trust that's involved in that.
Can you think of a more vulnerable time than when you are like completely naked? And for females, you're being invaded. That's the most vulnerable. It is though. You don't want some random people invading your borders. You better be coming here for the right reasons.
Do you have a visa for this entrance?
It's dangerous. You need to have your
password.
You need to have gone through a rigorous checkpoints. Yes. You don't just let anybody in here. No. Because that's when you're the most vulnerable. And we weren't taught this. We're not taught this as women, and we should be taught this.
Yeah, you aren't granted entry without a background check.
I think the biggest, for me, big turning point in my life is I started seeing my body as a temple. Sounds like such a cliche, but for real, I was like, yes, I am a marble. I have a temple made of white marble. It is pristine and shiny, and you will not come in here with your muddy shoes. You will take your shoes off outside. You will bring offerings. You will show up appropriately. You will say the prayers, and then you might be allowed in. And when I started seeing myself that way, it like changed the game for me. So, yeah, there's that. That's a whole other thing. Love yourselves enough to not just let any old person there. But we've all been through that because we thought people loved us, and we're not real good at being able to tell if they love us or not right out the gate. So that's where the physical touch can get dicey. And then we've been taught that we're being too, like it's wrong for us to say no to certain things, like hugs. I definitely had that as a child.
It's wrong for us to say no, but it's wrong for us to say yes.
And then later you're like, why did you do that? I thought I had to, because that's what I was taught. And that's a generational thing. It's gotta hug your uncle. I don't want to. He's hairy and I'm scared. And it might not be anything, but I had to override my nervous system to hug this person, and then I learned to do that throughout life. Which is traumatic in itself. Yes, it is. Yeah. Which is why there's a lot of people now, and they get flack from, there's generational divides, that are telling their kids, you don't have to hug grandma or grandpa. You don't have to hug your uncle. You don't have to hug anybody if you don't want to. And then people are like, why are you not making them hug me? They don't love me. No, they don't. It's my physical space. You're teaching your child that their physical space is their physical space, so they won't just let anybody in there.
They're worthy of having boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries. Yes. So I think it takes us a while to get to a place where we feel confident enough to say that we have boundaries around physical touch. And we have to be around someone who's not going to be offended by them. And it gets real complicated when you add all this social pressure stuff in. So yeah. But you want to be able to get to that place where you can just say, I don't want that right now. And the other person knows it's not their fault. And it's fine. It's not you're not rejecting them. You're just like, no, thank you. I need a break. So I'm a mother, And talk about having your personal space invaded. First of all, you have this person inside of you and you go through all that, and then they're just attached to you for the next forever. And my son is a snuggly person when he wants to be. When he wants to be, he likes to like snuggle. He likes to put his head on. Katie knows about the head beams. It's like he puts his head on you, but it's like there's a beam of energy coming out of the top of his head, and it feels like it's like spearing you. Sometimes when his energy is really high, and you've been around him too, his energy is really high. It's like his energy's just coming out of his head, and we call it his head beams, and we're like, your head beams are high right now. I don't know.
That's funny.
It's just, it's a lot. It's going into my ear. But he likes to snuggle and cuddle and like latch on. And he wasn't, as a baby, he didn't want to be held, but then as he got older, he wanted to like latch on to me, which is, that was hard for me. But I did the thing like Katie was describing where I can do this. I can be the mother, and I will allow him to latch and just hold on until I couldn't anymore. But I tried to do it as long as I can, and then nicely be like, oh, I'm going to go get a snack. Do you want something?
Yeah.
Let's move. But there were a few times where he did something that I wasn't expecting, or I was just not in a space to handle it. And the funniest one was when he came into the bathroom. He had a plastic spider on a string on the end of a stick, and he was putting it underneath the door to scare me while I was getting ready in the bathroom. And I opened the door, and he had his backpack on because he's just gone to school. I can't even remember exactly how it happened, but it resulted in me basically shoving him back from me out of fear. But his backpack was so heavy that it pulled him. He was weighted, so he like splats onto the ground, like splayed feet in the air, and he's looking at me like, "Mommy, why?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I just shoved my child." And there was another time he hugged me. I don't know if you guys get this, but hugs are okay until they're not okay. I have a time limit, and it's 4 seconds, and then I'm like, get off. Because then it feels restraining. Yeah. And he hugged me, and it was like 1 second too long. I felt so bad. I cried because I was like, I'm so sorry. So now I'll just have to be like, okay, that's enough. I got to let go now. But that one time I couldn't do it. We were on vacation. Yeah, I had just gone through some rough stuff. And man, being a parent when you're neurodivergent can be even rougher. But it opened the door for me to tell him that it's okay for him to tell me, Mom, I just want you to not be sitting on the couch with me right now. And I'm like, all right. And I get up and I move. So he now feels like he can share that because he knows I will, and we can share it together. And that's healthy. So there's those stories. Did you have anybody have anything else about physical touch or any of it that you wanted to add?
I don't think so.
Everybody looks like they're in deep thought at this time.
I had something earlier that my brain came up with that I was like related to acts of service, but then we've had so many other things through my brain that it is so far gone into the ether that it'll probably never resurface.
It will, but we don't know when.
Yep, truth.
Well, do you guys do the thing where you listen back to our podcast and then you think, oh my gosh, I have so many other things that I want to say?
When I edit, I listen to the podcast like a solid 8 times in a row. So
yes. I listen to everything multiple times, including my messages that I send to you guys, as I'm sure you've noticed, because I'll tell you. I just listened to that and I sounded crazy. I like to re-listen to myself over and over again, and I think that's a processing thing that I do, but yes. Then if nobody has anything else to say about the neurodivergent love languages, I can wrap it up. If you in the audience, the listeners, have any questions about neurodivergent love languages, if you are neurodivergent or you have individuals in your life who are and you would like to know how to love them better, show love better, if you're neurodivergent, you have a neurodivergent child or spouse, it applies for everybody. You can send us the questions. I know we have the website. We also have, you can do it on Facebook, on our Facebook page, or even individually send us questions. So please, if you have questions, send them our way. We will do our best to answer them whenever we have a chance. And on that note, Go out and love people, everybody.
We need to nail this whole signing out thing because we're bad at goodbyes. So
I like it.
I do too. It's always nice. We're just like, bye.
That's what I do. I'll be at a party and I'll just silently walk out when no one's looking because that's how I like to do it. That's what I'm doing.
Goodbyes are hard. It's a transition.
I like the cliche. Goodbyes. See you later, alligator. In a bit, Eartha Kitt.
What was that second one?
Yeah.
In a bit, Eartha Kitt. Do you know who
Eartha Kitt? I know who.
In a wild crocodile as the response. See you later, alligator. In a wild crocodile.
After a wild crocodile.
Yeah, but I just make up random ones.
In a
like
bit, Eartha Kitt.
You
That's
can
fun.
tell what it's a reference to, but it doesn't make sense.
I just try to silently sneak out.
Yeah, I like that one as
I
well.
have to say goodbye.
I literally
hate
just
that.
say goodbye and go. I just that's it. Bye.
Yeah,
Dipping.
that's what I'm doing. And I feel like it's appropriate because it's who we are and it's fine. They know what's happening. We're leaving.
This is the longest goodbye ever.
I know.
Yes, get
Bye,
into
guys.
the transitioning.
Nothing to think of.